thank you for joining us on this live format introduction. We know we already let you know what the format is, but we're gonna go ahead and do it again. We do it every time. So the new format is 8th edition, Rivals of Ixalan, Ravnica Allegiance, Legions, M13, and Murders at Karlov Manor with Wilderness Reclamation banned.
We also
Just
have Zendikar, Dominaria, and Strixhaven rotating out. Goodbye.
goodbye. Nobody cares about you anymore. See you later, nerds.
Also, I have a
So
couple of things to say about the video specifically. One, this is being live streamed on Twitch, so go follow us at UOL Stream. You can be notified when we stream a little bit more there. We plan on doing it more
we're
often. And
yeah, we're planning on.
as a result of that, you have visuals for this episode. I have my trice pulled up. I have the image thing really big. So let me know if you folks on YouTube want more visuals for this kind of thing.
Yeah, we're seeing if something like this is doable again in the future.
Yeah.
Before we jump any further into this, uh, we need to let you all know once again that both Morph and Disguise are in the format together. This is really important. You can't just play your shit face down. Come on. Mark it correctly with your appropriate morph. I guess it's a token. I don't really know.
Yeah, you can create a
With your
token
morph,
that just says more for disguise. Mhm.
yeah, it has to be marked because disguise stuff has ward. Morph is just face down, and when the game ends, you are required to show your face down cards.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you get a game loss
Foul.
or something if you don't do that. So be sure to do that.
Yeah, so I don't want to have to give out game losses because you all can't be bothered to flip your face down cards face up. Uh, that's silly to me. But oh my God, shut the fuck up, Windows security. Nobody cares. Um, but I will do it if I have to. But don't make me do it.
Yeah, he wants to be nice to you. Let him be nice. I think the first thing that we need to go over for the new format is the lands. I
Yeah,
love
that is,
lands,
that is
and
yeah.
we have some pretty good lands this time around.
Okay.
From the old lands, we have the five Ravnica Allegiance shock lands. We have City of Brass and Evolving Wilds for fixing, and we also have a couple of utility lands like Tron and Arch of Orazca. But from the new format, we have all 10 Surveil lands, the Allied Czech lands, Escape Tunnel, and a couple of utility lands like Reliquary Tower, Scene of the Crime, and Cathedral of War.
Cathedral of War is sick. Bye, baby. Cathedral of War is sick. Uh, that's a land that has Exalted on it. Hello, friend. Yeah, it's got Exalted on it. Exalted is a very powerful ability. Um, it came out originally in one of the Alara sets. Um, and then it came back again as Black White instead of, I think, Bant in
Yep,
M13. Very cool.
I think the first deck I ever bought was the Black White Exalted Precon from M13. That was very fun. Anyways, uh, look at this. I
Yeah.
have things pulled up. I'm so organized. So
Good.
first,
Oh,
uh, the first deck we want to go over, we think it'll be the best deck in the format is uh, green-based mid-range, and more specifically Panza. Panza has a lot of tools to work with. It has things like Arbor Elf plus Fertile Ground. It has Birds of Paradise, Wood Elves, and Farseek, and all of these things are really good ramp. And then that facilitates things like Stone Rain, Plow Under, and Acidic Slime to destroy lands. And then you just get really big threats in the late game as well. Things like Thragtusk, Thundermaw Hellkite, and Garruk Primal Hunter.
You also technically could gain access to Zakama if you splash for white, but that's neither here nor there.
That isn't to say that ramp decks are like the tier 0 super threat or anything, because there are ways to fight against land destruction. The first of which being just playing more ramp. Um, Destroying one land when you have 10 does not feel as bad as destroying a land when you have 2. Um, we also have things like aggro decks are really good because they need fewer lands so they can afford to have their lands destroyed. But other than that, Sacred Ground and Undergrowth Recon both get lands back from the graveyard. And my personal favorite, Redirect, so that you just point their land destruction right back at them.
Very funny.
Blue White. So, in addition to Absorb and Mana Leak and Wrath of God and all that from the last format, we have No More Lies, which is just a mana leak that exiles the spell when it's countered. Um, this card is very powerful. Asking people to spend 3 more mana is already a lot. Like the difference between Quench and Mana Leak is really big. So having access to 8 Mana Leaks really slows the game down a lot. And also with spot removal like Oblivion Ring, you can get threats that have already been resolved. So you have that back and forth going. And after you get to the late game, you just find a win con. And it's not really that hard to find a win con.
Win cons for control can include things like bribery. Uh, you've got Nezahal, you've got Akroma, you've even got uh non-creature win conditions like Sands of Delirium. Um, it's pretty effective mill card, but
Yeah.
there's also Elixir of Immortality, which is I guess a bit weaker in general than the other win conditions, because not dying is worse in general than winning the game.
It's still nice to have a little bit of life gain. Um,
Yeah,
but
it's
yeah.
nice. But with no Sphinx's Revelation, you don't have your sorry. So back when Elixir was an actually played deck in Standard, it had Sphinx's Revelation as further life gain. So you would chain together your large Sphinx's Revelations, redraw your Elixir, and then shuffle your Sphinx's Revelations back into your deck. You couldn't die, but because we don't have that in this format, the Elixir part of that plan is not as potent because we don't have the massive life gain card draw spell, and Hydroid Krasis doesn't count, doesn't do it the same way.
Mhm.
I'm not reading you, chat, but I know what you're saying. You fucking weird.
Elixir of Immortality also counters Mill.
Yeah, it does do that.
Very funny.
Green is eating really well because the next deck that we really wanted to talk about was specifically blue-green ramp.
Blue green is
Blue-green
scary.
so it's got a soft lock, or is it a hard lock? I don't really know. It's
Um,
got a combination.
it is game over basically.
It's about as game over as it gets without casting Coalition Victory. So the combination of cards is Doppelgang, Archaeomancer, and Plow Under. Um, so sit with us here for a bit. So you plow under your opponent. You have an Archaeomancer in play. Then you're going to cast your Doppelgang for X's 2. I know it costs a lot of mana, but your blue-green ramp, nobody cares.
You'll get there.
You'll get there. Your Doppelgang will copy your Archaeomancer twice. You'll get 2 enter the battlefield triggers. You'll get back your Doppelgang and your Plow Under. Your opponent probably still has to go through another land that you put on top of their deck. And then you get to Plow Under them again. It is not the first Plow Under that wins you the game. It is the second. It is every Plow Under after the first one that wins you the game. Plow Under is Time Warp.
Yeah. And
So,
getting back Plow
yeah.
Under with Archaeomancer, even without Doppelgang, is game winning. But Doppelgang
Yeah.
is
It's
the card that really allows you to just explode ahead.
you go bananas. It'll also let you copy cards like Thragtusk, which is already being played in your ramp deck. You get to copy your Acidic Slimes, which you were already playing in your ramp deck. You get to copy your lands, which gets you, I guess, like a little bit further ahead so that you can maybe even do both in the same turn, where you can plow and doppelgang. And then the game is actually over.
Huge
Uh,
value.
you still get to play your Hydroid Krasis for some reason. Um, we were also looking at Farseek for this deck because Farseek for Hedge Maze is still good. Not really a whole lot to say about that. Farseek for any Surveil land is going to be good. It just is.
And then I like Vine Trellis specifically because it's also a blocker, in addition to
Yeah,
it being
it's
ramp.
because you're looking to assemble a really slow uh game-winning combination. So not dying to 3/3s is kind of nice.
Hmm. Uh,
Do we want to talk about some of the other decks that we were interested in?
yeah. And before I do that, I do want to point out that because of Farseek for the typed lands and because of Leyline of the Guild Pact, there are going to be a lot of land types running around, which is a double edged sword. The benefit is that if you have things that benefit having a lot of lands of a certain type, like Mutilate, then those get really strong. But also, you get things like Boil to uh, to ruin your day. So
Hmm.
you will have to be a little bit careful about what what ups and downs you have of including certain colors and not.
Yeah.
I want to
Oh,
talk about Typal decks. And the first one I want to talk about is Merfolk. Because even though Merfolk Trickster is rotating out, we have Master of the Pearl Trident rotating in. And having island, giving all your creatures island walk in a format with presumably a lot of islands is going to be very strong. The deck is probably not going to be the tempo deck that it was when it won the last format. It's probably going to be more of like the all in rush down your opponent in one or two big attacks like it is in constructed formats. Um, I think the deck's going to be really strong.
yeah, I am inclined to agree with that.
Another deck that I think is going to be really strong is Elves. Elves gets
Yes.
access to a lot of things. Elvish Champion gives Elves Forest Walk, which is arguably even better than Island Walk. We also have Elvish Archdruid as a second lord. We
As well
have,
as
yeah, we have good
guys.
elves up the curve. Visionary, Gempalm Strider, Caller of the Claw to fight against Rads, Timberwatch Elf to give a lot of damage. Like, yeah, I think Elves is going to be very good.
Elves theoretically could be an intruder alarm deck if you think about it not enough.
It could
So like,
intruder
because
alarm. I
Timberwatch
don't know.
Elf, yeah. So you've got your tap abilities on Timberwatch Elves and good old what's his face, uh, the Gaia's Cradle. What is
Archdruid.
it? Thank you. Um, so like you can I guess make tons of mana like that. Hydroid Krasis, like Cat is suggesting, can draw you a shit ton of cards. That'll untap all your stuff as well.
Yeah,
You could combo off like that, and that could be pretty neat. Also,
that would be neat.
Gem Palm Strider is totally ridiculous, and I feel like when you glazed over that card, you did it a huge disservice.
Oh
So
yeah, oh yeah. Gem Palm Strider. Like not
if
only
you
is it
pull that
just
up,
like a bear, which is already like not bad for legions, it also just like is an uncounterable pump your board and
over
draw card.
it's an overrun effect. Let's not sell it short. It's an uncounterable overrun.
Yeah.
The counter to it is board wipe, but you have Collar of the Claw, which does fight against board wipes, at least to an extent. Uh, and even if you don't get any value out of cycling Gem Strider for damage, you do get value out of it for drawing a card. But I mean, at that point, you might as well just play it.
Yeah. We also have
Get your
Fecundity for
elf on
board
board.
wipes.
Yeah, that's true. Fecundity is pretty cool.
And speaking of Fecundity, I want to go briefly over the Goblins deck. Um, Goblin King is just Elvish Visionary, but for goblins. And they give Mountain Walk, which is pretty nice when you combine it with a Blood Moon. Um,
Hmm.
you can just make this be a deck that plays a bunch of 1 mana dorks that do really good things. And then you just drop a Blood Moon to interrupt their mana, or a Stone Rain to interrupt their mana, and then um, you just win the game with a bunch of little dudes.
Classic Blood Moon unstompy.
Yeah. So I really like Gem Palm Incinerator. That card's really good.
Card is. So I know I didn't actually ask before. Can I swear?
Oh, sure.
Card's really fucked up, dude.
Yeah.
Gem Palm Incinerator, like, it's really fucked up.
Yeah.
It's let's call it a 2 for 1. So
It is a 2 for 1.
let's call it. It says deal X when you cycle it. You may have it deal X damage to target creature, where X is the number of goblins in play. So that's damage to a creature, draw a card. Both sides are uncounterable because I don't think we have a stifle effect. We do. It's repudiate, isn't it?
We do have Repudiate.
None of you clowns are playing repudiate. I already know this. I'm not going to play around it. If you want to get me, you can get me.
Don't worry, I'll get you.
But yeah, Palm Incinerator is a 2 for 1. Kill a creature, draw a card.
Like this almost makes me wonder if they like switched the mana cost with the cycling cost on this card.
Yeah, that cycling effect should not be 2 mana.
No.
That's crazy.
Next deck I wanted to talk about was a deck built around a card that is making a lot of waves in constructed formats. It's Insidious
Hmm.
Roots. And Insidious Roots, in part, says whenever one or more creature cards leave your graveyard, you create a 0/1 plant token, and then you put a 1/1 counter on each plant you control. This gets out of hand very quickly if you have a way to repeatedly make creature cards leave your graveyard, which we have Gutter Bones to do that. It gets itself back if an opponent's lost life. And we have Veilborn Ghoul, which does it for free whenever a swamp enters under your control. There's also Withered Wretch, which exiles cards from graveyards one at a time. So if you're exiling creatures, then Insidious Roots gets really good. Um, and we just have a bunch of really good black and maybe even green utility to go along with that.
Hmm. That utility includes cards like Duress, Assassin's Trophy, Case of the Stashed Skeleton,
Yeah, just put Demonic Tutor in your
and
deck, why not?
yeah. And then for a consistent source of swamps, Liliana of the Dark Realms. Her +1 grabs a swamp out of your deck. It does not have to be a basic swamp. It just has to be a swamp. So you can get your Surveil lands, your Shock land if we have it. I don't remember if we have it. Or just the basic swamp. And that
Yeah.
will trigger, well, that'll help trigger your Veilborn Ghouls, which will help trigger your Insidious Roots. It's cool stuff.
Yeah.
And because you are green, you get to play Thragtusk. How funny is that?
That's very funny. Thragtusk is very good.
Thragtusk is very good. Uh, Basically, any deck that's playing green in this format should be playing Thragtusk because it's a way to stabilize the game. It's a way to stabilize yourself against removal. Uh, but it's not so good that it, I guess, needs to be banned. It's just a really strong card.
Yeah.
It's still got 3 tough. It still dies to a Searing Spear or two. Uh, Check the flavor text.
Yes, always bring a second spear.
Yep, that's your second Searing Spear. It's telling you to do it.
And finally, I want to talk a little bit about aggro. Red aggro decks were extremely popular in the last format, and even though they do lose a decent number of tools, I think there are enough replacements to actually do stuff. Um, Chief among these new tools is Crimson Muck Wader and Flinthoof Boar, which are both really powerful creatures, part of a really powerful cycle that benefits from having typed lands.
I'd
Um,
like to interrupt you for a quick second. Those are the only powerful members of that cycle.
I mean the white
Continue.
one is like a what is it a 3 mana
Is
3/2 flyer with that can get lifelink.
no, I believe that's the blue one. The white one, I think,
Oh
is the elephant.
yeah, the white one's the elephant,
They're
which is a 4 mana 4/4 that
all
can get trample. Not
yeah.
great, but
So that one's bad.
uh,
Black one's bad. The yeah, so the Bant ones are not good.
like yeah, no, we have
Oh,
like Judith and Zerta Goblin and other aggro things from the previous sets. Um,
hmm.
and even though I don't think we have enough support for red white aggro in this format, it is nice to know that we have Lightning Helix. But in
Yeah.
particular, I think the aggro deck is going to be a breakout deck because giving things like Crimson Muckwader or Flinthoof Boar or I don't know Mog Flunkies haste, like just putting a 3 power hasty creature onto the board for 2 mana is really good. And I think we have enough of a critical mass of those creatures that breakout will actually hit most of the time. So I think there's something there, especially since Blood Crypt and Stomping Ground line up in those colors.
That makes sense. Me personally, I'm not a huge fan of Breakout. I'm just something about that card. It grinds my gears.
Yeah, I don't blame
It,
you. And finally, in order to wrap things up, we have some combos.
we have some dumb shit to talk about.
Just as a reminder, we still have Underworld Dreams and Emergency Powers. And the fixing's way better in this format, I think. So uh, that is something that you can do in your Esper mid/control deck.
With that said, though, I'm not sure that the mana is going to be good enough to have both a triple black card and an Azorius card in your same deck, and then also still somehow be able to cast your board wipes. I'm just I'm not
That's
seeing it
fair. Yeah.
personally. Maybe one of you brainlets can make it work. I'm gonna be focusing my time on one of these other combos.
Yeah, because some of these combos are real nice.
Yeah. So do we
Um,
want to start off with the reason to play Jeskai Control?
sure.
So back when I had mentioned Jeskai Control earlier on with Lightning Helix and your counter magic and stuff, you have access to Intruder Alarm plus Krenko Mob Boss. And it has tap create token on it. And that means it goes infinite with Intruder Alarm.
Because
So you
when
can make infinite create.
you create the
It is
token, you untap the Krenko, and then you tap the Krenko to create the creature.
Yep. It is Splinter Twin while not being Splinter Twin. It is very funny. We actually have an Intruder Alarm combo in this format.
Woo!
Woo indeed. Very funny. Intruder Alarm breaks with a stiff breeze. And we didn't have a potent combo with it last format. We did have a combo with it last format.
Yeah,
But
I could imagine Krenko being that stiff breeze in the form of breaking wind, if you catch
yeah,
my drift.
yeah, he's a stinker.
Yeah. The next
That
combo is one that is also from the last format. Um, we have Zakama. Zakama is big and scary and untaps all of your lands when you cast it. Um, but we also have, in the exact same set, Release to the Wind. You just 3 mana, exile a non land permanent, and then its owner can cast it for free as long as it's exiled. And Zakama does not care from where you cast it, so you can
just
use
that you can.
you can just use it as a 3 mana ritual. And if you don't have anything else to pump your mana into, you can pump it into Zakama itself to, I don't know, gain a bunch of life or destroy a bunch of creatures.
Yeah. Zakama has plenty of outlets for your mana.
Mm-hmm.
We also have a very funny combo. Uh, so Obliterate is a very powerful, uh, let's call it a magic card. It's not really a magic card. It's something far more sinister. Uncounterable, destroy all creatures, all artifacts, all lands. Dumb card. World Shaper says when it dies, you may return all lands from your graveyard to the battlefield. That's
All
a combo.
lands, such as the ones you just destroyed off of Obliterate.
Such as the ones you just destroyed off of Obliterate.
Very
Fortunately,
dumb.
World Shaper's kind of
Yeah, World Shaper doesn't do too much outside of this. Like it does
doesn't
mill
have an
cards
entry.
so that like it can bring back a couple of lands later um if it gets a little bit of value, but for the most part it is just a combo thing. Um
Yeah, it's only good inside of the combo and not good outside of the combo. And because it's an on death trigger, if your opponent is able to destroy it with Obliterate on the stack, you've just Armageddon yourself. So a
mhm.
much safer thing to do with Obliterate is to have a permanent in play that doesn't get destroyed by Obliterate, like a Planeswalker or an enchantment. That'll still do things.
Yeah,
like kill
planeswalkers
your
play well
opponent.
with Obliterate. But if you want to
Yeah,
do
or you
things at instant speed, you can do the next combo, which is Yeva, Nature's Herald. Just a 4 mana 4/4 flash that gives all of your other green creatures flash, which, it's a good card in general, but the thing that really makes it good is Seedborn Muse. So you can you can like tap out on your turn, and then you untap on your opponent's turn and just play more things.
what this most notably will let you do is play a Hydroid Krasis on your opponent's end step, which is very funny. That's basically Sphinx's Revelation.
You can play it during combat.
You can play it during combat. Um,
Uh,
so this is Wilderness Reclamation at home.
yep,
Um,
this is this. Very funny.
I made a meme. I posted it in the chat.
Yeah.
I made that meme in maybe 2 seconds. Uh,
And then the last thing that we want to talk about is um, you all liked the 60 plus card episode. Well, guess what? Battle of Wits is in the format. Um,
very funny.
this comes with the caveat of if you want to play on untap like we do, you have to pay if you want to play more than 200 cards. There were problems in the past where people would like bring 1,000 card decks and then draw their deck into their hand to like crash people's clients. So um, yeah, if you want to play a 200 plus card deck, you either have to not play on untap or you have to pay for it.
We are not saying don't pay for untap because that would be a very rude thing to say.
Yeah, support untap if
Follow
you
up to that.
like it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in a position where you're able to support the untap in developers, you should. They're very good at what they do. Coke is a literal super genius. I I watched him. I watched him in chat debug an issue in like maybe an hour.
That's
Like
crazy.
the guy's a genius. I'm just a poor boy. I cannot afford to pay for Untap, so I cannot afford to pay for Battle of Wits.
Unfortunate.
Very unfortunate.
But anyways, I think that does it for the breakdown of this format. Um,
Yeah, I think that about covers a quick intro.
mhm.
We're very excited for this format. It looks really good for green and not much else. I'm
I
kidding.
think
Other
people will
stuff,
play things.
I was being very facetious there, but yeah,
Yeah,
no, other stuff is looking good too. It's just that green got a lot of toys. So it's
it
going to be
did.
interesting to see how people deal with the big green menace
Hmm.
and whether that means joining them or casting a hibernation.
A big green
Oh,
menace is my nickname in college.
thank you.
Hmm.
Ugh,
Yeah.
gross.
Excuse you.
No.